Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with World Ablaze mod. Now, is this better than Black Ice? Well, I don't know. We sort of had the stumbling block of my inability to defeat France. And I will say it's not because of my bad strategy, I think, and I was warned about this at developing at the time. Weakness in the divisions. So let's see about increasing okay, we have, well, let's there we go. A little bit larger, a little bit heavier divisions. Release the infantry. Armor. Right now, we don't have enough light panzers to increase that. We already have maintenance squads. Hey, Ari. Good to have you here, my friend. Okay, so let's go back down to Spain. We can watch the action as we try to push into here. What section are these guys up? Okay, Eastern. I guess that's all right. Okay, so now we have, I think those are maritime planes, yeah, which will allow us to do that. And yes, I want the long-range Condor. So we will start researching that. At least I hope it's a long-range Condor. As opposed to, I guess, a short-range Condor. Could you have a short-range Condor? Okay. Okay, one thing I noticed before starting this, we had an economic fatigue of 49%. Now, they talked about, the developers, I forget which one, of the mod, that getting Austria and Czechoslovakia helped reduce that down. See if it does. I think this is a bit much for fatigue for Germany. I really do. They talked about, yes, they want to replace with 39%. Let's see if that. Well, that didn't seem to work. Hey, Maxim Weisberg, how you doing? And USA Man is here, very good. So that did not seem to work. It did not reduce down to 39% economic fatigue. And I thought they were here in the previous stream. And I do think if they're not here today, they do. We need a much larger army and move some divisions around to get this. But we're still, well, half a year early or something. Maybe not quite that much. Do watch the videos, so okay, 70 days, another research slot, that's nice. I don't like that. I mean, once the war starts, that doesn't matter, but... And they said on this, again, they claim it is a choice by Germany that they're imposing to do autarky. Okay. I'm not going to claim to know everything. I still need to fully read Toz's book, The Wages of Destruction, though I think it's more dealing with, once the war starts. So I am not the absolute expert on this. But from what I've read, Germany was importing what it could, what it needed as time is going on, leading up to the war, while trying to establish autarky. And so a good example, a rare earth mineral, that like bauxite or something like that they could import, I know, from French Morocco. Boy, I forget what it was. And there was at least one fairly large deposit of it in Germany, but the purity or density or whatever, and I'll get to some of the chats here in a minute, USA Man and Maxim and Ari, the density of it was not that great to the impurities of other, stuff, whether it was dirt or just rocks or whatever, doesn't really matter. And so when the mining companies were asked to develop it, they looked at it and said it wasn't profitable enough to make it worth setting up a mining facility. So that the idea was that you could mine it profitably, but one, there was cheaper foreign sources, competitors, but also the time that it takes to, the capital investment that you do need to make to start a mine, it takes a while to see a profit, years down the road. And so if the profit margin is so slim on this, it could say, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, say take 20 years before you're in profit, and then it's profitable after that, to pay back the startup cost. Now, they couldn't quite tell the mining companies, hey, we're planning on going to war with everybody. This was, in this time frame, 36, 37, we're planning on going to war with everybody, so we've got to develop this, so you start developing it. They couldn't quite say that. So they had Hermann Goering Works go in there and develop the mine because it could be done. So the German state, in essence, paid for it through the 4-year plan. And so, yeah, it was a strategic resource that could be had. Now, while Germany is developing the mine, they didn't cut off their arm or something by not importing the stuff from foreign sources. And it was only once, they got the refined materials coming out of the mine, do they push the idea of buy German instead of foreign. So if they're, whatever it may be, rubber, say, rubber or something that, well, we could do it synthetically. Yeah, but if we don't have enough synthetic plants today for today's needs, yes, buy it from the Dutch East Indies. It wasn't some sort of weird ideological, well, we'll just do without the rubber because we want to build an autarky. And so they weren't doing that. Now, they did have problems with, foreign currency exchange situations. So there was that problem for sure. But that's a different issue. And since there's no money in the game, don't need to worry about it. Okay, can you play as Israel? Britain could release Israel as a state, and I think you could tag switch over to it if you wanted to. I don't know specifically with this mod. I haven't played Britain and released it, and I don't know if there's much there, as events or anything, but theoretically, yes, you could play as Israel. You'd be a single state province, or country, I should say. Research thought or speed would be good. Yeah, that would. What does autarky? Autarky is, yeah, there you go. Aries doing independence or self-sufficiency, and so that's the whole idea. And this is what was definitely going around at the time. You had well, you didn't even have autarky like I was trying to think in the 18th century where you had mercantilism. But you definitely around this time you have the idea that empires or great nations, and those are almost the same thing because Germany, gets unified. Well, we want to be a great nation. Well, we need an empire because Prussia basically, unless you count places like East Prussia or whatever as some sort of colonial possession over, say, Poland, Prussia did not have any colonies. But once you unite the German Empire, well, the German Empire needs colonies, so they get, what is, there's nothing that green in this part of the world. And there's definitely that type of desert too, but it's more dry, a lot of dry. The Kaviti Strip out here is the Makati down here might be considered marshland. But yeah, some of it is. This is not very useful except for Wavis Bay, which was British, and the diamonds that were eventually found in the area. And so they also grab up Tanganyika, Togo here, and Cameroon, which is partly this and partially over in here. British and French sort of split up their colony. So they grab that and grab the island. So great nations wanted to have empires. And then because of World War I, it sort of, and its aftermath, sort of really nails in the idea that these great nations need to be self-sufficient because you had much of the civilized world, shall we say, which is basically all the rest of the world, one degree or another sort of boycotting, working with the Soviet Union because they're revolutionary communists and revolutionary communists suck. So you had that. You had Germany, of course, in World War I being cut off from resources, critical ones, including food, for its self-sufficiency. So, oops, if we ever go to war with anybody again, it could lead to, whether it's Britain or France or whoever, but somebody with a big fleet cutting us off from imports. And if our local neighbors, whoever they may be at the time, depending on the size of Germany, might not want to trade with us. So we'd either need to invade them or whatnot. So, just let's say if Yugoslavia is independent, they don't want to trade, and Italy doesn't want to trade, and, they're fighting France and Britain. That may cut them off from supplies from other parts of the world, so they'd have to invade them. So they wanted to set that up. Japan, of course, gets this pushed. Autarky gets more and more pushed because they use economic sanctions to punish Japan for bad behavior, and particularly China. So autarky becomes an important idea amongst nations of different types here. Tanzania. I'd have to look at my stuff, but not. You're thinking Tanganyika, but yeah, we may have had some, but I don't think huge amounts. What is now Namibia was at one point. South Africa? No, it wasn't. Okay. Since this is also a hangout thing and not just a making episodes for YouTube, we'll talk about the history of Southwest Africa here. South Africa, which Eventually, at some point, it becomes a British colony. I don't want to go into all the history and development of South Africa right now. That's a whole nother long topic. Okay, now Britain out here at Wavis Bay, which is just a little tiny little blip out here, was a British/English colony. Then the Germans showed up and basically get all of the rest of this, and so it's German Southwest Africa, or whatever it is specifically called, German Südwest, Deutsches Südwest Africa, or whatever. And it's basically this minus Wavis Bay. They actually import a bunch of camels down here to have a German cavalry camel corps down for patrolling and maintaining here. A lot of this is sort of grasslands. There are some real harsh desert areas, and at some point they do find diamonds, but part of that is around Wavis Bay. There's also diamonds in other parts too, of Rhodesia, South Africa, and whatnot. So yeah, and then World War I happens. The British plow in and take it pretty quickly. Germans put up a bit of a fight. The Germans here had been supplying the Afrikaners, which were basically Dutch people, in their independence movement around 1900 with weaponry. So they were sort of playing around here, but they get crushed pretty quickly where Vorbeck, oh, come on, get back on here, fights the whole war and has not surrendered by the time the Germans surrender. Now he eventually moves, because Portugal goes to war with Germany. He moves into Mozambique and rampages around there. Hello, we took. You should import less iron and bauxite. I think you thought you have 200 surplus. You can always trade and reactivate steel mines. Yes, that's good advice, and I should do that. Das Südwestern Lid. Okay, Harry. Yeah. So, okay. So what we should do here is trade. Okay. So we will. No, I want to just come down. Let's see about doing that. And bauxite. So I want to come down here. I didn't want to click on 0. Okay, well, we'll see how this goes and we'll readjust. Okay, so yeah, I entirely disagree, and this is I don't want to overstate it, but I do want to give this mod a try, but do you have to do this before the war starts? Well, I sure would like IG Farben before the war starts, but not quite a I'm going to quit playing, but it's getting near. If I wasn't trying to do this for the series, that's getting near for me. The idea of, hey, I don't want to play this. And last playthrough, because I did that wanting to get IG Farben, I really didn't realize that it was going to kill all of my ability to import things like rubber. Okay, yep, we're going to do Pina Monday. You're right, Ari, looks good. Okay, and we can produce more factories. So let's come down here. They're almost full. Well, that state could have one. That state could have one. Very good. Let's look again. Did they ever move down? Okay, now it did move down to 39%. That's good. But still, that's way, in my opinion, way too much. Way too much. Was only allowed to happen once Germany went to war with the Allies. It would have made sense. Yeah, but it's partly I want to get IG Farben developing synthetic resources, which they were doing. They were actually working IG Farben, particularly with synthetic rubber, not fuel, but rubber, with I think it was Standard Oil of America. I know it was America. Yeah, pretty sure it's Standard Oil. So they were working towards autarky, but with other nations. So, yeah. Do you think whenever the World of Blaze series comes to close, you will try the New World Order? I have no idea. They admitted, Colonial Rebel admitted to IKB that starting the war, and they're basically admitted that their supply effect penalties were too great on Russia. I would like them to fix it. Obviously, I've liked it for a long time that they would fix it. And if they fix it, I want to play another Black Ice game. So I don't know when I'm getting to New World Order, Airy. It's not a thing I'm trying to avoid, but I do want to look at Black Ice if they fix that. Pre-war that. Yes. Pizza time. Oh, okay. He's ordered, I guess, pizza. Very good. Okay. Well, we could use some anti-aircraft guns. So let's put a couple. Okay, we got a bunch from Austria. So let's put a couple in there. We can do another anti-tank gun. What are we? Okay, heavy infantry equipment. We could use heavy infantry equipment as well. And of course, support and panzers. So, yeah, we'll go 5 and go a whole 5. Support equipment. No, I don't want to. Okay, we're going to start another panzer line, so we can just do 2 there. And then when some more factories come online, support equipment. Yeah, we'll do another 5 of those. I guess we could use them. Isn't Italy's army less motorized than Germany? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, less motorized through the whole period, for sure. It's somewhere, I think, around 1940. I'd have to look in the book again. That Italy finally decides to sort of motorize its army and realize, put the squeeze on them, I guess, that they need much greater motorization infrastructure generally in Italy to be able to motorize their military divisions, and just not just like it was focusing for armored divisions, but need more trucks and that type of thing, but also needing fuel infrastructure in particular around Italy to be able to, because if you have, say, 3 motorized divisions, whether they're motorized infantry, motorized armor, or sort of, a mixed of sort of panzer grenadier idea, and you go, oh, get them up over here, and whether you drive up there, which maybe you might presume that they would do, but often they would still move them via rail, but get there and then start driving around, you might in a day or 2 use up all the gasoline in the area, because Italy, just as a nation, isn't very motorized. And so, yeah, there are gas stations around. I think a lot of them were still literally, they had stacks of cans of gas that they would pour into the into the gas tanks of the cars, and not like a filler pump. But even if they had filler pumps, yeah, they're for the cars for the elites, which are either, fancy, limousine type cars, or they're, Italian runabout sports car type things. But those are just the few and the elites. And yeah, buses and whatnot in some of the major cities were running, I'm sure, and that was spreading. But the fuels, because the amount of fuel a motorized division is going to use is a lot. Give Heinz Guderian his great upgrades. Yeah, we could see about that. Let's see if there's anything. Okay. Okay. Yeah. We have plenty of that. For division motor. Yeah, we're going to do Panzer Expert. There we go. And does he have no trade updates for von Rundstedt? Indian National Congress is triumphant. Okay, well now you swing down this way. The Panay incident is where Japan attacks the USS Panay on one of the major rivers in China with air attacks. Okay, so we are still, well, we just now hit 39 or 38. Yeah, we will do computing machines. If you're going to do something like that, it's best to do it early. Okay, yeah, I think I want to spam out more fighters, so we want production cost of fighters down. And if you haven't either subscribed on YouTube yet or followed over on Twitch, please do so. I am streaming live to both services at the moment, and seeing both chats, so don't worry, your chat's being seen wherever you are at. Well, this is going to be a while. Okay, we can. How are we doing for resources? Okay, yeah, that's just down over that, but we still have plenty of steel being made. So, more military factories. Raid infantry, very good. Not this one? No, that one. Okay, so we can now research here. Encirclement, Sherplunk, we're going to do the German ones just because we're Germany, if no other reason. What is the time? At this time, if a nation wants to produce synthetic oil, for example, what are their options? Okay. Basically, it's you are liquefying coal is for synthetic fuel, and that creates a type of oil, if you will. There are two processes that Germany uses to liquefy coal, and each one is better. I don't know if it's exclusively useful, so I'm going to say better for a different type of coal, both commonly found in Germany. So they use both processes, and I forget the names of the process of liquefying coal into an oil-like substance, and then from there it is processed. Well, it can be just used as fuel oil, whether burning in a furnace for heating or a furnace for to generate electricity or something like in a factory, or fuel oil for a lot of ships can run off of, especially if it's light sweet crude, which is a grade of crude oil, light sweet crude. Can run out of that straight out of the well in the ground, though it would be better for, and these are ships that are sort of steam turbine ships. These aren't like you would see like in a submarine or a motor torpedo boat, that has an internal combustion engine, that type of thing, because most of the ships are steam, but they're steam turbines, so they heat up. It would be better to use a slightly refined oil, just a little cleaner burning, leaves less residue. Definitely significantly less maintenance long term, because you got to get in there and clean all the gunk out eventually. I don't know if short term less maintenance. So you could basically run that with maybe very little work. Otherwise, you are refining it into gasoline from the sort of liquefied coal. So that's what artificial fuel is liquefied coal. And that's what Germany is focusing on. The US is basically doing no significant research. Just means that I'm sure some of the companies are doing it, but it's not putting much resources behind it, because the US has plenty of oil. Where Germany doesn't. Well, it looks like we're slowly grinding through these guys. Good. Well, they've got a nice potential. They could get their act together. Cut off a few divisions there. Paying too much attention to the non-action in the war, we should be building more factories. And that has freed up. Well, giving us more. Again, I know I should always look here. Okay, support equipment. Now we're building more than we're using, but we still need to catch up considerably. So let's. Do I want a whole other? Me at 5. You know, let's just add another line. Production. I know it won't have any research, but this way I can just add a few at a time, as well as when I really want to add a full 5, because I want to see about increasing some of these other things like motorization. Well, I think we also need another thing. Heavy weapon. The USA during this time have significant interest in. Oh yes, they definitely had significant interest in synthetic rubber. That was a pretty big thing. The US had fairly heavy interest in synthetic materials at this time, for sure. Yeah, come down this way. Rubber, what is mostly down around here naturally. The Germans plant some rubber when they had the colony in Tanganyika over here, both, and they're harvesting it both from plantations as well as basically rubber growing, spread and growing in the wild that locals were just harvesting on their own. So there was definitely some rubber coming out of Tanganyika, and sort of U.S. influenced. One of my sort of distant ancestors spent some time in Brazil trying to work. I don't know exactly what he was doing, but in rubber production, growth, something in Brazil. So, and there is some rubber developed in Brazil, and I think in other places in Africa too. I'm not sure right offhand. So the U.S. is trying to get rubber out of sort of a British-Dutch regional monopoly down here. And it goes back to autarkies partially, but also mercantilism. Mercantilism is a pre-capitalist market economy, if you will. It is not capitalism. It is, I'm trying to think, basically zero state ownership of resources or companies or businesses. So it's not socialistic. It is basically zero state control of the company's ownership of the resources, any of that. So there's none of that. But there is heavy state control over import and or export of whether it's produced goods or resources or things like fuel or food, particularly in the 18th and 19th century, but fuel as well. And so and I know British mercantilism the best, is so that the idea is that if you produce something down here in one of the British Leeward Islands here, could be whether like sugar or rum, it needs to be exported to Britain, and then from Britain exported to the U.S. No direct trade. So this way, everything comes through Britain. A bad, terrible result of the laws is what they call the corn laws. And corn really sort of means like grain, not like maize or the American corn that gets spread everywhere else. So they're called corn laws. And there's laws that forbade importation of basically wheat into the British Isles to protect local farmers. So Canada, being part of the British Empire, cannot make a lot of wheat and put local English or Irish or Scottish wheat farmers out of business. So you can't import cheaper grain into Britain to protect British grain services. Now you can import other things from Canada, but not grain. Well, there's a high demand for grain in England because the population in the 19th century is growing. There is money in England to pay for this, so you make a lot of money. So so all of the big landowners were growing grain in Ireland, and the people were living off of in Ireland were living off of potatoes. Well, a potato blight, basically something that an infection of the potato plant, I don't know beyond that, gets in there and basically kills off the potato crop. So they're exporting the grain from Ireland to Britain, and the people in Ireland are starving because there's no food, and you can't import food because it's against the law. And the landowner, and this is really stupid policies, of course, is going, well, they'll pay me twice as much for food in London than they will for food here because these people are poor. So we're going to let the people here starve. Well, they make sure like the workers on the particular farm or whatever, yeah, they get food, but all the rest of the people are like starving in Ireland. And this is just really a horrific thing. So this is sort of mercantilism. It's not that because the government didn't at the time have the power to tell the farmers, no, don't export. I mean, they could change the laws, but they couldn't, they didn't have, it wasn't like communism or socialism or whatever, where you had the ability to enforce individual actions. You just had movement of goods, basically, laws. And so that's sort of mercantilism. It isn't capitalism, but it is a market economy. I hope that lets you know what's going on with that. Wasn't the corn laws very well? No, it was very popular in England because hey, you made all kinds of money in England. This is World Ablaze mod, Mohammed. Or for a fact, don't quite know. Frequently asked questions, is that something? I'm not getting that shorthand. Okay, back to the war in Spain. Panzerkampfwagen. Was it 3 aus A? I don't know, it's probably my very bad German. I've been told it's fun to listen to me pronounce bad German. Pina Monday, Army Research, very good. Okay. Okay, well, we don't have a large enough army yet. Though this is, I think, maybe it's more June-ish. The Sudetenland crisis comes up. Westwall would be nice, I guess, before we push on the Sudetenland. Yeah, we'll do the research bonuses first, though. We'll get those coming soon. Okay, enables delay tactic. Plastic defense. Sort of like the recovery rate speed. The supply grace is nice. Less organization loss and moving. I think I'm going to go with that one. Oh, what are we talking about? Construction and production values are changing by the mod. Oh yeah, they're basically halved and doubled the amount of factories and all kinds of things like that. That is what. Don't know what area's going on other than something about maybe the Irish fascists. I don't know. More about lower growth production. Okay, so that we will do. And we're going to keep the stream going, but I'm going to be ending this episode. So those of you watching later on YouTube, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, Please subscribe to the channel, and of course, love to hear your comments either about the topics we've been discussing or the mod itself. Thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.